Ladies and gentlemen, I am omnusI here in my lair for today, the final day of RPGaDay 2020. And it's been a month. We're excited for the next things we're going to do beyond this. But it is important to send off the RPGaDay with a good tone. Today's word is experience, which is very appropriate. Experience in a game, especially if it's an ongoing campaign, after a session, experience is usually the last thing you think about. It's the reward for everybody showing up to the table. And it's the thing that draws you back to get your character, stronger, more powerful. Not all games use an experience mechanic, however. There are some games that are like, wait a minute, your character shouldn't be superheroes able to take a breath of a dragon without flinching? No experience for you. Your character doesn't go up like that. Maybe you might learn a little wrinkle here, maybe a little bit of... But no, your character's not going to get more hit points or anything like that. Nonsense. But most do, because people like to see their characters improve and a lot of times learn new things, abilities, skills, and generally be able to move beyond the basic challenges of when they started to bigger and better things, quite honestly. More of the heroic path, where Luke Skywalker started as a whiny farm boy and ended up as the most powerful Jedi Knight in the galaxy, so we're led to believe. That is a common theme that people really like. Part of the reason, one of the appeals of gaming in general, is to make a character, live them out, and see them grow. And experience is the vessel that a lot of games use. They may call it different things. It may be character points or skill points for Star Wars D6. It might be karma for Shadowrun. Lots of different names, but it all really does the same. It's like, here's your reward for coming, facing down danger, learning hopefully from mistakes that were made, and this is how much you get so that your character can get better as you have earned it. Or maybe, as some systems do, instead of using some sort of experience track, like one of the options for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, a milestone where, hey, you overcame this big obstacle, have a level. Works pretty well, quite honestly. But experience can be important. It usually is. If you have any attachment to your character, if you want to see them organically develop and grow, or even arbitrarily grow on a leveling system, experience is important. It represents the things that you have done. And it commemorates them and rewards you for hard work and exposing yourself to risk, doing the kind of things that need to be done in the game. Now, of course, Dice File is no different, but its experience is largely driven by your core concept. When you make up your character, the first thing you do, you don't roll dice or anything like that, first thing you do is come up with your character concept, which is usually 2, 3, maybe 4 words that encapsulates the spirit of your character. So, Brave Knight, Bratty Princess, serious, thoughtful sage. Were all things that can be your character concept. What happens is the story weaver watches you play, and every time you do something that is befitting of your character concept, they make a note. Maybe put a tick next to your name on the control sheet or something like that. But they keep track of the times when you are being true to your character. If you're a bratty princess and you are being a brat, you get a point, even if it isn't necessarily moving the story forward, as long as it's not mindlessly indulgent. I mean, if you're just refusing to work with anybody because you're being a brat, that might work once, but if you continue to do it to the detriment of the game, it's not going to help you anymore. Or it shouldn't. But if you are also... if you are using the fact that you are a princess to get what you want, that also would give you a point. All aspects of that concept can work. Now, the MVP of a session can get a bonus experience point, but generally everybody is going to come away with 1, 2, or 3 character points. If it was just a general role-playing night, nothing really got accomplished, but everybody had a good time, it's a point. No risks taken, but you can still feel a little bit of an achievement. And if you tried something and it just kind of failed, yeah, you can have a point. You're still there and you still had some experience. On average, you're going to get 2 points a session, which will allow some slow growth of your character. Oftentimes it'll be the starter that you need to get a new skill developed or raise a low-level skill up a notch. And if you did particularly well, especially at the capstone of a series of adventures, an arc, you may get 3 points. Plus, you might get a bonus point here and there, and if you're the MVP, you might get yet another one. Top end, you should get a 6. That would be a lot of experience points. And experience points are generally just used for leveling up. I know some games let you use your points for other things. I think you can burn karma, for instance, in Shadowrun to get wealth or, things like that. You can use skill points in the later editions of Star Wars D6 system to roll extra dice to, basically get your fat out of the fire if you roll disastrously. But generally they're used to improve your character, and that's the case in my game. I have more than enough other ways to help you yourself in the system that I don't feel it really needs to be tied into sacrificing the advancement of your character to do so. If what was it? Companionship dice or cheer dice or something. I've gone away from pity dice. Pity dice are pretty much put to bed. But cooperation dice can help you out if your allies are around, and otherwise, you've got a mug for circumstantial dice, use your gear intelligently, and things like that. I don't really see, and pushing, of course, pushing is an excellent mechanic to give yourself better success. I don't really see a need for a person to sacrifice their precious points they're using to advance their characters. Now, in a game where there's a much finer lens, and you have lots and lots and lots and lots of skills, you don't get more points, but those points get more mileage. For example, if you have, under your fighting skill, there's 15 different classifications of weapons, there's 3 different classifications of unarmed combat, you might have grappling, you might have brawling, you might have some sort of exotic martial art, and maybe you have a siege warfare skill. You have all those different things. Then maybe to pick up a new skill only costs 1 advancement point. And to raise something from a D4 to a D6 only costs 1 of those points. Actually, they're advancement points. I've been calling them experience out of laziness, but that's generally the idea. In general, you want to be able to see growth in your character at a steady rate, but not, unless your game master wants to, really see characters shoot up at shockingly quick rates to quickly become some of the most powerful characters ever. That may work for your story, and that's perfectly fine if you do that. But the default rate will be a little bit slower than that. Likewise, if you want to demand training to go up from a D4 to a D6, or a D6 to a D8, or a D8 to a D10, that may require training if your game master wants it. That'll also be an optional rule in the book. Lots and lots and lots of optional rules. Honestly, I may just have optional rules as appendices and have like 20 different appendices for all different forms of play that you could do. And then the game master would just have to sit there and go, okay, we're going to use this, 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 and this. Be fine. Because all of them are still going to remain true to the core game concept, so it's just options, things that you can do, different ways that you can play and have exactly the kind of experience that you're looking for, hopefully. So that's my idea for experience. That's kind of a brush over how a lot of these other games do it and why I've chosen the way that I have. Again, because you're using a relatively rough scale with D4 going to D6 to going to D8 to D10 to D12, let alone D20, which is ridiculous. And if you want to round that off, you want to make that a coarser ride, I'm fine with that. Go get yourself some of those DCC dice. So you can have a D3, a D4, a D5, a D6, a D7, a D8, a D9, a D10, and just keep going. Sure, I'm fine with that. That would be really cool, except those dice can be expensive. It's easy to find your standard adventuring dice relatively inexpensively. Honestly, on the third-party market, there's shockingly cheap dice. Although sometimes you have to worry about miscast, but not even that often. Dice can be really cheap. Getting fancy dice can be expensive. But those DCC dice, well, there's only a couple of companies that make them, are pricier. I think I paid $25 for the set that I got, and while they're very cool, I'm not using them right now. Would I use them in Dice File if my other players all wanted to get a set of those? Yeah, sure. Then we could really, ramp it up so that it's less expensive, but you have more incremental increases. The starting default would be a D3 for your skills. Because a D2 is, honestly, it's a yes or no. That's not really a roll at that point. I don't think I'd ever want to go down to a D2, but a D3 is pretty small. To go up to a D4, D5, D6, D7, D8, yeah, I have absolutely no problem with that. And if you wanted to change the scale so that you could work your way up to, well, if you're really amazing, even the D20 isn't necessarily the outer boundary on what you can do, yeah, I'm fine with that. It just means you're going to be shifting those values of dice more frequently. It's also going to mean that your basic dice pool could get a little messy because you're going to have a lot of different dice in there. You never have a vast number, but the range can be quite dramatic. So anyhow, that's my idea on experience. And one of the things that I really hope for is that high-level play is no more painful to play than low-level play. And I think that kind of works because, again, no math. You're just looking for the highest number in general. More experienced play just means you get to use the push mechanic more because it doesn't hurt you as bad. You just get tired. So, yeah, and those things that are desperately important, like a fight to the death, it makes sense to push. So you would use that mechanic a little bit more often. That's it. But otherwise, most of the other concepts are fairly much the same at high level or low level. Just bigger dice numbers or bigger die values. So, but it's been a pleasure and a privilege to talk for this month with you about my little game. Again, some of you will never think about making your own game. Some of you have already made your own game. Some of you are thinking about making your own game. The things that I've talked about through this, even though they've been led by topics, have done a pretty good job, I think, of going over all of the core concepts that I believe somebody designing a game should do. The whys and wherefores, the nuts and bolts of game design, and having a reason for everything you're going to have in your game. I think it's important to do that, and I think that most of the most successful games had a core concept from top to bottom that they stuck with and made their game more memorable, more successful, because people caught fire with their core idea and were eager to play that game and could understand it without having it spelled out for them. And those core concepts, those ideas that reverberate throughout an entire game that's designed well, pay off in the end, because it makes it quite clear what the intent is for the game designer, how they intended their game to be played, and sometimes how you can play it differently, how you can tweak and alter it and make it a little bit more exciting for the way you like to play. So, but again, I do thank you for joining me. I thank the new subscribers who popped in, since I did post many of these to the RPG Brigade. I think some of you came from there, and you're welcome here. I'm really kind of sad that the RPG Brigade didn't have stronger representation for something that came out of the RPG Brigade, but that's a different community now than it used to be. But, all in all, I am happy, I think, with what we've done. I'm glad that these videos will be on YouTube if anybody ever wants to go back and take a look at the the core ideas behind Icefile, and I look forward to kind of showing you more of what I've done, even though right now it's all still on Google Doc format. But I think, you know, with an overview of the game itself might show you some of the direction that I've done and the concrete changes that have been made, which honestly have been made to make the game less concrete and more fluid. So it's kind of ironic. But as we talked and as I've worked at it, I've been thinking more and more about how I want the game that can be exactly what a person wants, with a minimum of work to adjust it to fit their style. So if that all works out, I'll be very, very happy. And I hope that if you give it a chance that you'd be happy with it too. So, thank you very much. I am omnusI, here in my lair. Again, if you like this video, feel free to subscribe, but even more important than subscribing, I feel free to leave a comment. Let's talk, have a conversation. If you have criticism, critique, an idea, be glad to talk with you. I generally respond inside the day when you post something. So, thank you very much. Until next time, I am omnusI, and I'll see you when I'm next in my lair making another one of these videos. Thank you, and farewell. Make sure that you check out this channel again. I'll only be posting a notice of this in my omnusI page, but I will be having a wrap-up where I talk about all the things that we discussed this month, as well as, again, a general overview of my game. So, thank you very much. Until next time, farewell.